Uh, Good evening, my dear students, friends, research scholars. I have the immense pleasure to share some of my thoughts, feelings on such important topics. I remember before election, Lok Sabha election, I had also talked by your research, by your this research organization about our responsibility in election. Today the topic is very important and it is hotly debated, discussed. Many people write things about to the developed India. As we know, developed India concept came from specifically it became a matter of discussion when Prime Minister gave a stress in the Independence Day. India is a developing country. He wants that India should become a developed country by 2046 and 47 and 5 trillion economy in 2024 and 25. So it is not question of develop India or develop India, question of how it should be measured, what is the qualitative improvement. As we know that life is uncertain. Nobody can say what will happen tomorrow. So when government have any target or want to achieve, there should be a long-term planning, but it should tell what will do in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Okay, let us forget this. What is a developed India? Our country is a developing country. It is not a developed country. How we can define a developed country? Primarily, developed country means we have to presume that it is in the rank of top countries who have a high per capita income. World Bank defines various countries in 4 categories on the basis of gross national income, gross national per capita income, evaluated through World Atlas method. That means if every country's gross national income per capita income is converted into dollar, that is known as World Atlas method. For this, there are 4 types of economy. It is categorized 4 income. First one, it was low income countries. Any country having per capita income less than $1,146, it is categorized low income country. Then comes lower middle income countries. Country having gross national per capita income from 1,146 above to 4,515 or 15. It is categorized as a lower middle income country. Then comes upper middle income countries. Countries having per capita income between $4,515 to $14,005. It is categorized as upper middle income country. Next come high income countries, which we can tell as developed countries. This is categorized as per capita gross national income ranging from 1,405 to above. Normally, those who are developed country, their per capita income, average per capita income is around $46,000. America per capita income is around, I think, around more than $80,000. So, question is now India has in 2007, India became the lower middle income country. 2007. Since then, there is no change in the category. Now government has talking about the developed India. Thing is that it does not tell what should be the economic indicator of a developed country. It tells it will be a superpower country or developed country. We cannot say only per capita GDP or GDP is the only indicator of a developed country. We should be a military superpower, we should have a huge infrastructure, we should have a huge social infrastructure, there is a huge investment in the health, education and the social sector, there should be improvement in the standard of living, health, education should be affordable and the living standard should improve, qualitative life should be changed. So there are various factors where we can think that a country has developed. India is yet to be a superpower among the 10 top countries. Superpower, those who are based on their GDP, military strength, infrastructures, other factors. India is not among the 10 countries. Today, India is considered as the 5th largest economy in terms of nominal GDP. In terms of purchasing power parity, India is the 3rd largest economy since 2011. We must understand India is the 3rd largest economy since 2011. There is no change in the purchasing power parity. Purchasing power means it should convert the purchasing power of a dollar. For example, some basket of goods cost 20 rupees in India. If it is cost around $1 India, that means in purchasing power of $1 will be 20. And normally today purchasing power of $1 if converted into rupee, it is around 22 rupees. But in exchange rate it is around 84 rupees. So in terms of purchasing power parity, India is the 3rd largest economy after China, USA. But it is 3rd largest economy not today, it is since 2011. So now coming to the question, when they are telling that India will be India will be the developed India by 2046, what should be the GDP? They are telling that GDP should be $30 trillion by that time. Particularly the definition of high income countries, what we see in 2047, that may be changed also. They are not telling. Second thing is that since they have made this slogan, India should grow by around 9.7% per year to reach that 30 trillion economy. That is the most important thing. But what has happened? Economy is slowing down. Recently, as you know, the GDP growth in the July and September, in the third quarter, in the second quarter, it has become 5.2% of 5.2%, which is the lowest in the last 7 quarter or in the last 2 years. That means GDP is slowing down and the economy is experiencing slowdown. What is slowdown? What is recession? Recession means normally in economic terms it is a fall in consumer demand, fall in economic activities, various countries define in different way. But in economic terms, when a GDP contracts or become negative in consecutively in 2 quarters, then we say it is a recession. A economy is in said to recession. But slowdown means the rate of growth will be lower in each quarter or in each year. It has happened when after the GST implementation and demonetization import, there was a slowdown for around 5, 6, 7 quarters. Today again slowdown has started. For the last 5 quarters, it has a GDP growth is slowing down to reach this 5.2%. So that means when economy is slowing down, how can you anticipate that there will be a growth of 9.7%? That is the biggest things. Here I would, as a student of a research scholar, I want to discuss something about the calculation of a GDP. GDP is calculated by three methods. One is the output or product method, another is the expenditure method, another is the income method. In output method or product method, GDP gross value added is calculated in agriculture, industry and service. It is combined together, the value comes, and in that it is added product subsidy is subtracted, and the product tax, those most part of indirect tax, excise tax, custom tax, GST, all are added, and product subsidy are subtracted from this to derive the GST, to derive the GDP in the market price. So if indirect tax will be more, GDP can also increase. In the expenditure method, GDP also calculated, that is the expenditure of government investment, government spending, private spending, net export and imports, private consumption, net import and exports, it is combined together make a GDP in the expenditure method. Similarly, in income method, it is also calculated. It is calculated on 4 factors: wages, interest, wages, interest, and there are 2 other also factors that constitute the income. So, in all 3 factors, normally GDP should be same, but normally it does not become same, and particularly in our country, stress is given to output method and expenditure method. But there is a variation in expenditure and output method. Some last score, there is when GDP is calculated, there is some huge difference in the figure. So economist has objected. Another objection is that GDP in organized sector it is possible calculate. India organized sector is vast, informal sector is vast. Around 90% of workers work in informal sector. Their income is shrouded in secrecy. It is difficult to ascertain what is their income, how much tax they are paying, what is the economic activities. So it is very difficult. But GDP of this informal sector or unorganized sector is calculated based on assumption of the organized sector. That is the most important thing. That means our GDP calculation is questionable. I am not just questioning, many economists are questioning. Another thing is that when we subtract real GDP, we get the real GDP. Real GDP means nominal GDP when inflation considered by price deflator is subtracted from nominal GDP, we get a real GDP. Real GDP means total value of goods and service produced during a year, which is 5.2%. Nominal GDP in the first half yearly it is 9%, and the nominal GDP in the first half yearly of this financial nominal GDP is 9%, while real GDP in the first half year is 6%. So government estimates that GDP will grow around 6.5 to 7%. Is not possible. RBI had estimated that GDP will grow in 2024-25 7%. This is not possible, and it has also reduced its target around 6 to 6.5% in this new credit and monetary policy. But obviously in the first half GDP is real GDP is 6%, nominal GDP is 9%. What is important? Nominal GDP when is taken into consideration, which is GDP in the market price, when inflation considered in the price difference is subtracted or taken into consideration, we get the real GDP. There is also question, ex-chief economic advisor Aravinda Subramaniam had made a question. He had a question that the price inflation is considered in the price deflator. In that case, it is used as the wholesale price index, which is wrong. Wholesale price index does not reflect the real inflation. It is now, it is very low. He says that it should be producer price index should be used. So when the price deflator is not correct, so normally real GDP is become too little bit high. Another thing is that we must, as a research scholar, should know when GDP base year for GDP calculation was 2004 and 5. It was revised 2011 to 12. At that case, government changed, when government changed base year, what they wanted that GDP growth in the UPA regime should be less. They tried for this. That is why what they did not change the nominal GDP figure. What they changed? They changed the price deflator. They made the price deflator a little bit high. So that is why GDP figure in the UPA era became low. Still then, real GDP growth figure in the 10 years of Modi era or NDA era, NDA 2 era, in 10 years, it is around 5.9%. But in Manmohan Singh era, in UPA era, it is around 6.5%, more than 6.5% or 6.7%. But if the old method is taken into consideration, then GDP will be 7.7% in UPA era. That means there is a so pompous claim, superstitious claims of a GDP in the last 10 years, that is quite wrong. Still GDP was high in the UPA era, and in old method around 3 years consecutively GDP has crossed 9%. And when a global crisis was made, happened in 2007-8, when the entire world witnessed negative growth, India had a positive growth. That is the important thing. Overall, I am not going to that aspect. In my opinion, GDP is not only indicator of well-being of the society. What I think, what is the important thing? First, how to evaluate the country. In terms of GDP, if what government tells, we cannot become a 30 trillion economy 2046-7. Another important thing, most of times, whoever rules tells that we have our growth is so much, our economy has a size is so much, our tax is so much. They also tell to deceive the people. Actually, truth is that everything increases in nominal term. For example, what is the price of a commodity in 10 years back? What is now? So inflation automatically increases the value in nominal term. So what should be considered? What is our size? What is our GDP in comparison to other countries? That it will increase in nominal term every year. If we compare, it is told that Indian economy still it is the highest, one of the highest growing economy despite slowdown. China has a growing is 4.67%. USA is growing 2.6%. But we forget to tell that China economy is more than $16 trillion. So 1% GDP growth in annually, it will add more than $16 billion. America economy size is more than $29 trillion. 1% of GDP growth they will add around to $2,900 billion. But in our economy, what we will add? We will add only around $378 billion, 1% growth. And what is the important thing that in 1980, Indian economy size was as the same as the China economy. But today, China economy, size of China economy is 5.4 times more than the Indian economy. And these countries, China or USA, other German, France, Japan, whom we want to compete, they are much advanced technology. Their education is high quality. Their research in our research investment is one of the lowest as percent of GDP. It is around 0.07% or 0.8%. In other countries, 1.2%, 3%, 4%. And they have advanced a lot of things in infrastructure, manufacturing. In other area, we are nowhere where our innovation is very poor. Say we depend upon other countries. We depend many things. We import from the China. Our concept of self-reliance is only confined to words. So there is no chance of reaching that stage. What I was telling, first thing GDP, next comes per capita income. What I was telling, in terms of per capita income, India occupies a 142 position in the world. Normally, it may be variation 1 or 2 position. That means we are behind 141 countries in terms of per capita GDP. When we are thinking of becoming a developed country, in terms of per capita income, we are behind 141 countries. If we consider per capita GDP in purchasing power parity, then our position is 129. That means we are behind 128 countries. That means in per capita income, we are far behind. Another important thing where India should excel to become a developed country, that is Human Development Index. India is placed abysmally 134 out of 194 countries. That means in terms of human development that take into consider life expectancy, health, education, we are behind 133 countries. In global hunger index, we are behind 104 countries. In the sustainable development, we are behind 111 countries. In gender gap index or any index, we are behind many other countries. That means where we are talking of development, there should be improvement in the standard of living, improvement in the research, improvement in the per capita income, improvement in the qualitative life, and it should be compared with other big countries, other developed countries. What happened? Our ruling class always compare those who are below us. They compare with China, they compare with Pakistan, they compare with Sri Lanka, they compare with Bangladesh. But even Bangladesh per capita income was better than us. In many index also, Pakistan is better than us. My purpose is that I am not telling that this government is bad, previous government was good, or the government will come, will be good. I am not. My question is not this. My question is that be realistic in your approach. If once a child is not able to write a English word, if his father tells that my child will become IS, then it is an illusion. Why there is an illusion of developed India? Because this is impracticable in 2046-7. Our purpose should be not a developed India or developing India, or a lower middle income or a upper middle income. Our purpose should be elevate the standard of living of the people, to raise the qualitative aspect of life of the people, to provide the health, education at a cheaper rate, which are missing by big margin. Now, coming to question, what I want to tell, in all ground, we cannot be a developed India by 2046-7. There is nothing to be worried. What should be worried? How the people will live happily, peacefully, there is a good atmosphere, the society. Most of times as a student of economics, we forget that society is getting contaminated, polluted, life is becoming very uncertain, conjugal life is disturbed, family life is ruined. We are not discussing, I am not going, that is a social cost, that is the because we are emulating Western civilization, it has an impact, rampant consumerism has an impact on our life. Nobody also discussed, because unless if you are, what happens when the GDP, in terms of GDP, when the government will give stress on GDP, it forgets other aspect. What is important? GDP can grow when reach consumer more. GDP means total value of goods and service produced during a year. It indicates the economic activities of a year. If we, out of 140 crore people, if we 40 crore reach consume, earn more, consume more, GDP can grow. So GDP obscure the grim realities that people are facing in the ground level. It does not consider the happiness, sorrows, emotions, thoughts, feelings of the people. For example, today I am delivering a talk and you are listening this talk. It does not add to the GDP. Your knowledge, when you acquire knowledge, it does not add to GDP. When you feel happy, it does not add to GDP. When you feel sorrow, when you undergo excruciating experience of life, or you have a problem that doesn't reduce the GDP. GDP is a simple economic activity. Since rich are getting richer, they are accumulating, well, there is a inequality, so GDP is growing. As we know, 1% of the Indian population earns more than 40.2% wealth, and 50% of the population only possess only 3 to 4% of the wealth. 1% of our income, 1% of the population enjoy more than 22% of the national income. Inequality is so rampant, and according to Global Inequality Report, inequality is more than what was in British era. That means when inequality is rampant, when rich are earning and consuming more, then GDP is growing. So GDP growth should be equitable, growth should be inclusive, growth should benefits of growth should reach the poorer section of the society, which is not happening. That is a major problem. Simon Kuznets, who has created the concept of a GDP, he told that GDP, except economic activity, GDP does not consider other things. For example, a person has a maid servant. He pays money to her maid servant. Then it adds to GDP. When the maid servant, he marries the maid servant, then GDP declining. For example, one drank a liquor. He paid money into liquor shop, GDP created. He made accident, went to hospital, GDP was created. He died and cremation was held, money spent, GDP was created. So GDP, for example, if you purchase a new car, GDP is created. If you repair a old car, only what a little amount you create, add, that may GDP created. So GDP does not indicate always a well-being of the society. GDP does not take into account the happiness, sorrows, emotion, thoughts, feeling. All these aspects are not. Only it does not take into consideration what makes life worthwhile. That is important thing. So what should be the thing? I am not telling that GDP factor should be ignored. What should be? Government should give priority other living standard, happiness index, human development index, genuine progress index, that is another important index. All these index should be considered, which is not given weightage. So now coming to the question, how we can enhance the GDP. First, my views is that another important thing, when the GDP grows, it comes at the cost of natural resources also. Our natural resources is not infinite. It will one day exhausted. Then question comes, when the natural resources, mineral resources will be exhausted, how the future generation will survive? And excessive industrialization, use of vehicles, cars, air coolers already leads to the environment pollution, degradation and air pollution. How you know the most polluted cities air pollution are found in Delhi and many other cities of India. So environment degradation and pollution is also leading to dreaded disease. So government now is time to think a new concept. We cannot give stress only GDP because it comes at the cost of natural resources, environment degradation, which is likely to pose a threat in the future, will like to pose a threat to the survival of a human being. Of course, it is true, if GDP declines, everybody will object. But what should be policy? There should not be worriness for GDP growth. There should be worriness how other indicator India flourishes. Second thing, we have enough wealth in our nation. Many people equate GDP with the wealth. GDP of nation with the wealth of nation. I have also read in articles, one articles, and these articles also spread by many eminent persons. That this article author says that GDP, our per capita GDP is $2,800. If you extract the wealth of Adani Ambani, then it comes to very low. Wealth is something different, GDP is something different. GDP means it is economic activities or in a particular area. Wealth is from what you possess. If mine, for example, I have income, let it be, I have a 20 lakh income for a year. Then I can say my income is 20 lakh. But if I consider my wealth, what I have asset, what my asset, I may have a house, I may have a car, I may have a vehicle, I may have a finance, physical asset, apart from physical asset, financial asset, bank, postal, share, debentures, all are assets. When I may be to repay some loan, when we extract liabilities from asset, then we derive the net worth of wealth. So wealth of a country is much higher than national income or GDP. So GDP cannot be equated with wealth. What is important thing? We have enough wealth in a nation, and that can sustain the life of crores of people for many years if it does not increase. That is important thing. What is important thing? It requires the equitable distribution of wealth. I am not telling that all will be equal. If all are made equal, there will be no reward for merit, there will be no reward for entrepreneurship, there will be no reward for talent, there will be no reward for sincerity, commitment, then society will collapse, no will try. There should be a difference. Talent should have a reward, entrepreneurship should have reward, all these things. But there should not be manipulation. Those billionaire you might have read recently about castigation or corrupt charges against Adani in America. Of course, America is more corruption in America, more rule is violated, and most multinational company they do not repay their bank loan. Many who indulge in corruption, they keep their money in the tax haven where trillions of dollars of tax have evaded. Our also rich also keep it in tax haven where they do not pay taxes or pay less taxes. Thing is that we have enough wealth. That is a equal distribution. Second thing is there should not be manipulation. Stock market, you cannot say when the stock market will rise, when it will decline. Stock market index. Everybody assume assign some reason to stock market increase or decrease. In scientifically, or nobody can say when the stock market will increase or the stock market will decrease. Basically, जो foreign investor, institutional investor, they invest when there is low, they withdraw money when there is high, they gain out of this. So that is one aspect. I am not going to the stock market, but how the rich accumulate wealth? They accumulate wealth by stock market manipulation, lower interest rate, tax evasion, loan written up or they do not repay their loan. So they become rich by unfair means, and they get support from those who are ruling class bureaucrats. They get support that is known as crony capitalism. Crony capitalism means these corporate intervenes in government transaction to in their favor. For example, corporate tax was reduced from 30% to 20% and certain cases 15%. That means government is losing revenue. In that year, government lost revenue 1.45 thousand crores. 1.45 lakh crores. This is increasing. Once upon a time, our income tax generated from corporate tax was higher than tax generated from personal income tax. But now the thing has reversed. And when there is a decline in growth, the profit of a corporate companies registered in the Nifty, National Stock Exchange, their profit has reached around 4.2% of GDP, which is around 14 years high. That means growth is declining, economic activity is slow. How the corporates are generating more fuel? That is manipulation. So, as a student of economics, we should object. We should say equitable distribution of wealth. Second thing is, when we are discussing on the developed India, what is most important is border taxation system should be progressive. Why is taxation system progressive? Because burden of tax is falling on the poor. In the all over the world, the way they are calculating GDP, it constitutes economic activities. Government spends, but government takes money from more the poorer class of the section of society. It is not anything paid in taxation. It is not considered in absolute term as proportionate income. In Oxfam report has told that 64% of GST is collected from 50% of poorer section of the society, while 3 to 4% of GST was collected 10% richest section of the society. That means indirect tax is regressive because poor and rich pay at same rate. For example, if you purchase a computer, you will same tax. What a rich person purchase a computer, will pay the same tax. What is in other advanced countries, their income resources generated through direct tax as percentage of GDP is higher, and income of indirect tax it is lower. In our country, resources generated through indirect tax, both central and state, is much higher than the direct tax. That means indirect tax is regressive, burden fall on the poorer section of society. A poor pays more taxes as proportionate income to the rich. And in order to ensure that India should grow, India should be a developed one, taxation system should be progressive and burden of the tax should fall on the richer section of society. There is a huge tax evasion, loan written up around 14-15 lakh crores of loan, bank loan are written up. So system is rigged in favor of the rich. Inequality is rampant. And when we are talking of the developed India, government is telling that poverty has a decline. But in any method, you see the poverty is the majority starvation line. If he is $6.85 in purchasing power is considered the poverty line of upper middle income countries, Indian people, their number will be around 85%. And in India, when we are talking of developed India, not only inequality rapport, around 80 crores people need food assistance. Many people, there is a huge people are under the poverty lines. Inequality is rampant. What is important as a youth? Job. If growth does not create job, then there is a problem. Job elasticity of job means in the past, when there was no liberation, the growth rate of job as proportional in relation to GDP growth was much high, and it has declined to today. And various reports says more you are educated, more you are likely to unemployment. Among educated youth, 83% of youth are unemployed. I am not telling that whoever rules can provide job, but there is a vacancy in state government, central government, and corporate are cutting the cost, and they are retrenching. Life is becoming uncertain. If job is created, income people, if more people have more job, their economic activities will grow and the economy will grow. So my point of view that it is not just important. This another important thing is that health education has become most in a disastrous stage. India's even Amartya Sen has told, India is limping backwards. Health, we do not need so much schemes. There is no, they are taking our money from poor through GST, other taxes, and they are spending and giving some schemes and telling that we are proper. Actually, it is our money. Actually, we want free health and education in the welfare country. If a person spends, go to a English medium school, he has to spend 50,000 for admission. If you go to hospital, corporate hospital, immediately you have to spend 50,000. The most of the people who take medicine by consulting a medicine shop. Education is unaffordable, health is unaffordable. Governments and our health expenditure as percentage of GDP is one of the lowest in the world. Around 5 crores of people have been dragged into poverty line due to health expenditure. Many people who sell their asset are dragged into debt problems because of health expenditure. So that is why government, what I think, you do not know what is today, what will happen tomorrow, how, whether you will have wealth or you will be poor. So if health and education is free, we can think that our children can grow. Our children will not face problem even we don't have a health. So but that is missing. Government is cutting the expenditure and health education, while they are giving some schemes in return, which has no productivity impact. They should spend this welfare scheme, they should involve social security scheme, they should create more stuff, they should have other plans. Another thing is lifestyle expenses is not considered. Today, earlier it was a dream to have a two-wheeler. It was a dream to have a TV. Today, many have also four-wheeler. So you cannot evaluate the same in line that people have come down from the poverty. So now, problem is what? This should be the objective of government. Now, government tells that inflation is eroding the purchasing power, no doubt. Inflation is affecting the growth. Their higher interest is affecting the growth. When we must ensure equitable growth, how we can ensure the growth? That is another important thing. Growth should be also sustainable. Growth, there should be GDP growth, green GDP. Green GDP means we lose many things due to environment degradation, decline of resources. This should be taken into consideration to derive the green GDP. So now question is, what government is telling? They have recently reduced the cash reserve ratio. There is a lot of clamor to reduce the interest rate. Growth is stimulated by fiscal policy or monetary policy. Fiscal policy means government can increase expenditure, health, education, it can reduce taxes, it can make the goods services cheaper, it can provide fiscal incentives as it has happened during the corona period. In case of monetary policy that maintains price stability, government it is a clamor that interest rate should be reduced. Actually, they are not thinking of the saver. Interest rate is should be fixed in relate to inflation. Always one's deposit should have a positive real interest. Real interest means interest you get nominal interest minus inflation. We almost all are getting negative return in our even not only banking savings account, fixed deposit. Fixed deposit we 6-7%. Consumer price inflation is 6 point more than 6%. And what is important? Food inflation is 10 point more than 10% in October. Food inflation due to food inflation, poorer section of the society spend major proportion of their income on foods. So their purchasing power is eroded due to inflation, and real wage is also declining. Real wages mean nominal wage minus inflation. What various report comes, even our economic advisor has admitted that economy real wages is either constant, stagnant or declining. That means when wage is not increasing, economic activities will be affected. So what is important? Inflation, interest rate mechanism we should know. When interest rate is high, for example, government wants to stimulate demand and growth. If interest people, if they have money, they will spend. But when people don't have money, or people want to start business, factory, or purchase car, or build house, they need huge much money, they will borrow. If interest rate is high, they may not borrow. If interest low is less, they will borrow, they will spend. That is why interest it is advocate to reduce the interest rate. Similarly, we should not forget the depositors also survive. Widow, students, or old aged people, service holder, they also survive on interest rate. They keep their hard-earned money to earn interest for their future and children. If they get negative interest, because we get most of negative interest means inflation is erode. Again, we pay also taxes. We pay taxes on bank deposit interest, maturity values. So indirectly negative return. That means you are discouraging the savers. Our economy is a savings economy. You cannot discourage also savers. By discouraging that, savers also get hurt. And government, why government is stressing, giving stress on the reduction of interest rate is because government is the largest borrower. If it pays interest more, it is interest liability, debt liability will increase. And next largest borrower is the corporate. If corporate, since they borrows, they have to pay huge interest. So there is a clamor for to reduce interest, not only for the interest of the consumer, they are clamoring because interest of the corporate. Because corporate simply, if interest rate which is reduced, their debt liability will reduce, government debt liability will reduce. So it is, however, it is a debatable point. Recently, government has increased the cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio means proportionate of a customer deposit. Bank has to compulsorily park with the RBI, where there is no interest. RBI pays interest in the, when a bank keeps money in the reversible rate. But in cash reserve ratio, the customer bank, a bank has to compulsorily park certain percentage of a customer deposit on a reserve bank, on which reserve bank pays no interest. And government has reduced to cash reserve ratio. For example, more than 1 lakh rupees will come to the hand of the banks. When bank will have a huge liquidity, bank will try to lend more. Otherwise, what they will do? When they have more money to lend, so unless they lend, they will have problem. When they will want to lend more, they will be forced to reduce the lending rate. They may not reduce the deposit rate. They may reduce, when they will force the lending rate, to maintain a parity, they will reduce the deposit rate. So indirectly, RBI governor has tried to reduce the interest rate through cash reserve ratio. Now, I am not going to more details. Now we will come to the conclusion chapter. What should be the objective of government? Very, it is a critical thing. Suddenly, if there will be no growth, there will GDP growth will be low, there will be severe criticism. It is true, everybody will criticize it. But when a GDP, as a student of economics, you must think it deeply. When a GDP grows as much grows, simultaneously also it leads to the depletion of resources, mineral resources. So that is necessary to have a sustainable development. You forget about to develop India or developing India, you forget it. Many countries, Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, these countries, they are more happy countries, they peaceful countries, they do not depend upon a GDP. GDP just since it is economic activities, now time has come to devise certain method, progressive, what is economic progress, what is green GDP, some economists also advocate for decline in growth. They say that growth should decline. It is very, today in situation it is very difficult. But our objective should be redistribution of wealth. What as a students of economics, what we should say? We should when we are appearing education, we should learn all these things. What is GDP, what is not GDP, how is GDP growing, what should be GDP, all these things. As a human being, we should give more importance well-being of the society. Decline in corruption. Corruption is rampant. India position is very around 83 in 180 countries. That in corruption we are much ahead of 82 countries. Every times you see newspaper or television, black money are found after making raid. Inequality is rampant. Even you may imagine for your children's students' life. I feel I have come from a rural area. I have lived in a thatched house without electricity, lantern light. I was enjoying life more what I am today. So what is necessary? We have to see that happiness grows, people become peaceful, society becomes less corrupt, people who do not have people have a less problem, criminal activity decline, married life becomes successful. All these things we have to gradually embrace. We have to gradually ignore the concept of GDP. If not fully, we have to gradually give weightage to the equitable distribution of wealth, happiness, pleasure, how to share emotions. Today people have a 5-star building, their children are not near them, they are dying and people are knowing after 15 days. So what is the necessity of money? If money does not, money is important part of life, wealth is important part of life. I am not, if you don't have money, everybody will ignore in society. But money, nobody should evaluate life with only money. Knowledge acquisition, improvement in qualitative life, social activity, social relations should be improved. Government should also give priority all this. They should not only power, money should not play dominant in role. That is most disastrous thing that is happening in society. People are giving more importance only power, wealth. That is why good number of good people are declining. When number of and people are changing their path, being harassed, humiliated, and if nobody is able to raise the voice against the powerful, that is why what happens. Voice of voiceless is getting decimated, and when people are dying, people are suffering, they are made to believe that you are enjoying the best possible. That is Amrit Kal. I am telling, whoever rules, he cannot solve the all problem. But policy of a government should be not only to create GDP or to enhance wealth. Policy of a government should be to have a welfare society, to increase happiness, to increase peace, to increase the living standard, to increase the qualitative life. This should be, let the people have a happiness, let the people learn more, that people think more, people have other aspect. Not only should one should be evaluated with money and a position, people should be evaluated their quality, people should evaluate the knowledge, people should evaluate with the social contribution. Everything should not, people should not be made to run after the powerful and rich. People should be made to run after the intellectual. People should be made after to think about the creative people. People should have a peace, happiness, love, affection, sense of humor, creativity, all these things. Unless we do, the society is going to meet a catastrophe. This should be our thought of the day. I am very glad that you have given me time to share my feelings, emotion, thoughts. Thank you well. With this, I conclude my speech. Thank you. Namaskar.